All right, Mike. At the time of this recording, we are a week out from the spectacle that will be taking place in Las Vegas, Nevada over Easter weekend, WrestleMania 41. The two cards were announced last night on SmackDown for both nights, but we're starting off with the heavy stuff. We're starting off with the main event of night number two for the Undisputed WWE Championship, featuring the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes, who has now finished the story over a year ago, against the man who is going to ruin wrestling, John Cena. Mike, we talked about it when the heel turn went down, the absolute shock of it. We've had a month to build. We've had a war of words. We've had shots taken across the aisle. And I think we're about to get an incredible night two main event. How do you see it going down?
Well, I see it going down, and I mean, one thing though is I definitely do not see a clean match. I see shenanigans in this one. I see it being kind of a handicap match between Cena and The Rock, and then eventually that glass will break, and then we'll get to what I'm alluding to, and that's the recently new WWE Hall of Famer, now two-time WWE Hall of Famer, coming down to get some stuff to lay out some stunners. But basically, when I look at this match, be very careful with Cody Rhodes. And you're probably like laying there and you're probably sitting there and question, Brandon, like, what's going on here? Why would I say be careful with Cody Rhodes and be careful with this match? It's very, very important because in this scenario where Steve Austin comes down and saves the day, that now marks two WrestleManias in a row where Cody's essentially been saved in a double team situation and a handicap style situation. Be careful with that because I'm not talking about the outcome as far as WrestleMania. I'm talking about the outcome of Cody as a greater character. Be careful in the weeks after and make sure to still stack the deck again in the next few months against him to make sure that he's not somebody that just has to rely on other people to come and help him get out of situations. Does that make sense?
Okay, so
Because
you do believe that Cody is retaining the title.
yeah, I believe that Cody is retaining the title because they have more time to put the belt on John Cena. Well, I mean, and they also have Backlash the next month in St. Louis, and Randy's going to have something to do. You know what? I mean, it's so interesting because where does Steve Austin factor into all of this, right? Does he come down and help Cody, or does he let Cody fend it off himself and he loses? I'm torn on this main event. Really, I am. Just
So, oh,
massively.
well, here,
There
here's
is also a scenario where Randy comes out and turns on Cody, and then Cena wins the championship. But with Cena Orton kind of on the horizon, I mean, Cena Orton might not need the championship though. Like
yeah,
that's the one thing, like, you know what I mean? Like I think the championship raises the stakes, but you know what?
yeah.
I'm just gonna stick with my guns here. I was kind of back and forth and turn on this main event, but I'm gonna go Cody retaining.
You can see Michael's wheels spinning as we talk about this. So
Be
I
careful with it though. You see what I'm saying there, Brandon? Like be
yeah,
careful.
and so, let me sort of transition and go back and because let me throw this out there. So the night one main event, as we know, is the triple threat match between Roman, Punk, and Rollins. And originally, what I had thought this favor was going to be is outside of Paul Heyman working with CM Punk, is it was going to mean that CM Punk was going to get a shot at the Undisputed Championship at WrestleMania, and they were going to do some sort of screw angle in night two where somehow, some way, Punk walks out of WrestleMania with the title, and neither Cody or Cena walks out as champion. I don't think that's happening anymore. But if you connect the dots here, I think that night one, in my opinion, Seth Rollins is going to align himself with Paul Heyman, and Paul Heyman's going to turn on Punk and Roman, and Seth is going to win that match. And Seth Rollins was the one who sort of helped John Cena win the Elimination Chamber by curb stomping CM Punk, We know Seth Rollins told Cody Rhodes in February, don't make me regret helping you win the championship last year. Mike, is there a crazy scenario where, because of the bloodline connection with Paul Heyman, where in a line Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman screw Cody Rhodes out of the Undisputed title, and we have this new sort of bloodline form with Cena, Rock, Rollins, Heyman as sort of this new power WWE?
I think it's interesting, and I like the take Brandon a lot, but I feel like this whole Punk Roman Seth thing could be its own separate thing. I and as I say that, next week after the show, we're going to be texting back and forth, and yes, it could happen. But I don't know. It's interesting. I think Paul could screw Punk and Roman and side with Seth in a way that doesn't necessarily have to be brought into the main event of the show. I love your take a lot, but I mean, we could probably get good television with just Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman just themselves. But I do see a scenario because I think with a lot of people in regards to Seth Rollins' character, he feels like the workhorse professional wrestler right now.
Yeah.
He feels like, to me, I don't know about you, you probably think of him as one of the goats, but like,
It's hard
I
to
just,
say GOAT. He is definitely one of the best of this generation. It is hard to say GOAT because I think there's so many, and especially from like the last generation, right? Your Hunters, your Michaels, your Edges, your Randys, your Cenas. Now you got your Romans, well, your Punks. Cody's obviously up there now. Rock, Stone Cold. Like I Rollins is up there, but I don't know if he's in that for sure 1A class. He might be just a tick below.
well, I think that Paul Heyman could definitely elevate Seth Rollins. I think it would look silly, walking Phoenix Light, aka Seth Rollins. I shouldn't be taking shots like this. I don't know. To me, he just looks like the WWE's version of the Joker and War, but because of the laugh and the dancing. But to me, I think Paul Heyman can greatly elevate Seth Rollins. And I think that would kind of propel Seth Rollins to being, you know, the next opponent for Cody after Mania. I think that would be great stuff. I think that then you could kind of pair Roman and Punk by themselves, maybe.
Yeah.
It doesn't really feel like, I don't know. It doesn't really feel like Seth Rollins would pair up well with Cena and Randy
Okay.
or like Cena and Rock, just because I feel like Seth Rollins is such an people engage so well with Seth Rollins and the song and just him being one of the top babyface characters on the entire show. I don't think that him going completely dark with Cena is best for business. It's just
Yeah.
not because I think it's too deep of a contrast. I think with Cena, they're trying to do everything totally different than when he was this babyface warrior. And part of Seth Rollins is the color, the flash, and the flamboyance. How does that transition to, okay, I'm gonna screw Cody now? When last year we just had this like hallmark moment at WrestleMania between Cody and Seth Rollins. I feel like it could work. I feel like it's a dart throw. I think your booking of it sounds more logical than mine in some ways, but I also feel like you got to give something for Punk and Roman to do out of this.
So I think Punk and Roman are going to be set for one of the main events of SummerSlam because don't forget SummerSlam's 2 nights this year.
Right.
So
Yeah.
maybe you do that, and then maybe Cody and Seth is your night two main event. I don't know. It's gonna feel like a WrestleMania this year because they need to fill 2 nights, obviously. But yeah, I think it's gonna be very interesting to see where we're at down the road with that. Let's move on to some other matches. Let's get to some of the main other matches. Let's go to the triple threat women's world title match between Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, the champion, and Bianca Belair. And Mike, as you know, or maybe I can't remember if I told you this or if you told some other buddies this, when Jake our girl attacked Naomi inside the Elimination Chamber, I personally did not love it because I wanted Bianca Belair to be revealed as the attacker Jade. I did not understand why Bianca was seemingly moving on from this situation, but now I do. I think it's pretty clear to me that based off her actions that it is going to have Naomi help Bianca Belair win the Women's World Championship on night 2 of WrestleMania, and it's going to eventually be revealed that they both attack Jade and Rhea and Io are going to go their separate ways. But I think it is a way to get the title on Bianca, and I think eventually at SummerSlam we're going to get a Bianca Jade our girl match that we've been waiting for.
Good take, Brandon. I don't know. I think I'm going to go the other way. I think I'm going to go with Ripley here in this one. To me, she's the greatest women's star of all time. Uh, I just I see her as a stalwart of that division. I see Bianca and Naomi and Jade Cargill is not necessarily a number one act in the women's division. I think the women's division's so deep. You got to put your best ones on top. I definitely see Rhea Ripley winning this match, turning it into a fresh women's division. Not every match could have a heel turn on the show or a shock babyface return. So I think that falls into that category. I think we get a win for Rhea Ripley, further cementing herself. I can't wait till she firmly gets her flowers from everybody because I think she has the legs and the just with her
Yeah.
character wise to be better than
It,
Charlotte Flair when it's all said and
in a
done.
different time period, I think, if the roster wasn't so stacked in today's WWE, she could be the face of the company.
Oh yeah. Well, and I think she already kind of is. I think if you look at the faces of the company, I think she's definitely in the top five.
I agree with you there. Let me ask you this though. I agreed with you at first, and I thought, okay, Rhea's gonna probably get the title back. But if she gets the title back, to me, unless the point was to just get Io on the card, what's the point of Rhea dropping the title a month ago and then just winning it back?
It was probably to get Io on the card. I mean, Io is a great wrestler. I think she's really respected by the fans and by the front office. Needed to add something to a match that would just be Rhea, Bianca, and Rhea going over. I think a lot of people don't necessarily expect Bianca to beat Rhea clean in a one-on-one match. I think it's the same thing as kind of the Undertaker situation. I
Yeah.
think I compare Rhea to Undertaker a lot in my head because I feel like it would do more damage to the Rhea Ripley character for her to lose, you know, to lose in, clean fashion. Like the Undertaker characters like Hulk Hogan, I mean, they're really top babyface characters, never lost one-on-one matches in clean scenarios. If you look back at that over time, especially in Triple H booking, Triple H was in that era, so he knows how to
Yeah,
build really.
there very rarely does a babyface lose clean, especially if they're overweight that in today's era. What about the other women's title match between Charlotte Flair and Tiffany Stratton? We know the promo that went down a couple weeks ago on SmackDown. I'm glad, by the way, that they've taken the direction that it's going off the rails and turned it even into a better storyline, or it's now sort of a shoot storyline. Obviously, I think the controversy surrounding it, I think it's heightened the matchup a little bit. Uh, Fans have not really embraced Charlotte like some thought maybe they would since she was gone for so long to return to the Rumble. And, this is a big moment for Tiffany Stratton. I mean, she's younger than you and me, and here she is in one of the biggest matches on the card in the entire WrestleMania weekend.
Well, I mean, and I'm gonna differentiate with you on this. I personally hate this build, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I feel like it's doing the shoot to make the main event match better, but where do we go after this? So, like, I think Charlotte is a natural like heel character. I think she's a character that the fans do not like for a number of reasons. She feels corporate, right? And I feel like in the promo last week we were kind of lost as far as like where are we going? Who's who? Because the babyface would never cut a promo and just run away. And that's what Tiffany Stratton did, right?
That's true. Yeah. I mean, I thought it was very clear in the promo that maybe it was the Chicago crowd, which is always a great wrestling crowd, but maybe it was just the fact that to me, it has become more clear week over week that Tiffany, ever since even beating Nia for the title, has became a face.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So like, why would a babyface like cut a promo and then just leave?
Yeah.
Doesn't I mean, and it's weird because I mean Tiffany's taking shots and like she's the one who's not supposed to be the villain. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whoever is the person that decided to do this, whether it was Charlotte, whether it was Tiffany, whether it's the writing team, like just get your act together. I think these two are good in ring talents. I think Charlotte's one of the top two greatest ever. Her and Rhea Ripley. I think she could elevate Tiffany Stratton. And I think Tiffany Stratton could win the match. Now I'm kind of at a point where I don't
Yeah.
really care who wins because again, we don't know who's who.
So earlier this month, you were pretty dead set on Charlotte winning when we talked. So it sounds like you may have changed your tune a little bit.
Yeah, because at that time we thought we knew that they were trying to build up Tiffany Stratton as an amazing babyface, but now it's kind of like, okay, like where are we headed? And I feel like certain talents just don't get along with each other, and I think that's what's happening from what I'm seeing here. Um, really, that's kind of when I won't really share an outcome of because it doesn't really matter to me. It's so bad at this point that like I don't really care who wins. Like I'm confused, and
Fair enough.
I would probably say I would just have Tiffany win. Or, I mean, you could go either way because again, it's we don't know what's next.
Yeah. Um, the card was I don't want to say devastated, but it took a hit when unfortunately Kevin Owens had to leave and go out via injury, and it sounds like a very serious neck injury. Where not only could he miss this WrestleMania, but WrestleMania 42 as well. They're doing this storyline with Randy Orton now, and him trying to find his opponent. Obviously, him RKOing Nick Aldis a couple weeks ago. It looks like Solo Sikoa last night on SmackDown tried to throw his hat in the ringer. What do we think we get out of this Orton segment? Is it a major segment? Is it going to be, a return of some sort? Where do you think we go here now?
Randy Orton, Nick Aldis, I think that's where we go. I think it's too late to necessarily uh, put in a new character into this, an Aleister Black or a Rusev. And I also think that we've seen Randy Orton and Solo Sikoa way too many times on television to even count. I think Solo Sikoa has to get involved in the Jacob Fatu match. So I think from there we go into a Randy Orton Nick Aldis match. I think that really, I mean, no matter who wins, I think it's a great feud, and yeah, I think it actually has legs. I think it could go kind of for the whole summer. Doesn't have to be matches between the two of them, but I think a great Orton Aldis clean matchup is what's needed. This card is just it's such a strange year, Brandon, for the card.
Yeah, it is. Though I feel don't we say that almost every year outside of last year, and then it turned out to be a great show. I mean, I remember the talk going into 38 and 39 was the card looks like shit, and then they turned around and it was two great back-to-back WrestleManias.
Well, I don't think it necessarily looked that bad, but when
Well,
I
me
look
and you didn't, but the IWC did. Let me put it that way.
but I mean, when I look at, you know, when I look at this situation, you're kind of snake bed in multiple scenarios. Last year, you had The Rock available for every single week before WrestleMania, and and now you have one of the top acts, John Cena, not available every week before WrestleMania. I feel like in a way that's hurting this whole card because now we're kind of Punk, Rollins, Roman, and night one pigeonholed, and they've kind of it's hard because I feel like you've got to work on building up Cody as a quality champion. And I think if we have Steve Austin coming out and helping him, does that necessarily do that, or does that necessarily drive that side away? I think when you look at all the great, previous champions that were company champions for years and years, Hogan, Austin, Cena, they were all just as good with the title as they were when they were in the chase. And I don't think we're in a scenario yet where we know that Cody is just as good with the title as he was chasing.
Yeah. So speaking of the chase, Mr. Yeet Jey Uso won the men's Royal Rumble, and at first I was like, okay, it's kind of weird. They just faced off at Saturday night's main event. We all know Jey Uso's gonna win. So how do they get us to care about Jay and Gunther again?
It's
And
a,
then Gunther beats the living hell out of Jimmy Uso and wipes his blood on his chest with Jey Uso zip-tied to the ring and Gunther begging Jay to help his brother while he's locked in the sleeper hold. That to me, along with Jay's promo last Monday, where he talked about the fact that he wasn't scared of Gunther anymore, that sold it. And to me, Gunther is he's incredible. I mean, I think he might be my favorite wrestler today. He's just a machine. I think he's the perfect heel. I sometimes I think he's in the wrong era because he's such a throwback, but he's so good at what he does. And I've talked about this, and I think this is what's going to happen, Mike. I think this is a perfect moment to help you open up WrestleMania Saturday, first match on the card.
perfect way. Two great in-ring workers, especially, if you're going to end the night on a heel turn and Rock and Roman are going to get, or Roman and Punk are going to get screwed. I think it's a great way to start it. I think you have Jey Uso win the world title. No reason you can't, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
there's no way he doesn't win, which that's the only problem with it. If Jay doesn't win, what does that mean for his character? It'd be so deflating, in my opinion.
right. I mean, Jey Uso has a lot of Jeff Hardy in him, and I think, a lot of
That's an interesting take. I haven't heard of that from anybody. I like that take.
yeah, I mean, think about it though. Great in-ring performer, a guy that gets that reaction from the crowd every single week. I would love to see him beat Gunther in the opener. It would kind of just make everything electric to start the show, especially when night one is kind of feels front loaded to me, and night two is kind of on the downturn, but maybe that's because they had more shenanigans in the Cody Cena match.
See, that's a different take from what I've heard from a lot of people because a lot of people think the night two card looks better. Obviously, night one, you have the triple threat. You have Charlotte Tiffy, you have Jay and Gunther, you have LA Knight and Jacob Fatu, which I think will be an interesting match for the US title. Night two certainly has more multi-man matches. Obviously, the Fatal Four-Way IC title match, which I think will be a lot of fun. And then the triple threat women's title, and then Cena and Cody. I think that night two is harder to predict where each match is going to go as opposed to night one.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be an interesting show. Again, this was a build up that was kind of snake bit due to The Rock, Cena not being there, Kevin Owens being injured. But we'll see what happens, Brandon. I think it has the potential to be a great show. And yeah, I mean, we're still in the Cena year. Let's not forget that. So,
The only match that I am kind of against, and I don't understand why they didn't do this, is I think, and I get it because Bailey and Liv Morgan are such high profile competitors, you kind of had to have them on Mania. But I don't know if it feels like to me that match was sort of the replacement for a women's match of a potential 5-man team ladder match for the SmackDown tag titles. Like that chase to me between DIY and Motor City Machine Guns and the Street Profits and Pretty Deadly and Los Garzos and all those teams. I thought that was going to lead to a multi-man match at Mania, and for that to not happen to me feels like a disappointment.
yeah, I mean, it feels like a disappointment to me. I mean, live, I got to see the big ladder match last year. Thought that was huge. And I think missing that, you're kind of missing something there.
Yeah, I agree. I think Priest McIntyre night too. I think both those guys have done a hell of a job selling that. Yeah, especially Drew, and that match will be very physical. Every time you get an Extreme Rules match on Mania, I think it'll be a lot of fun. I think night one is more of that technical wrestling style where it's gonna be more one-on-ones outside of the triple threat, and night two you get more variance to it.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, Brandon. It's interesting. I think night one looks better on paper, but hopefully night two is just as good.
Did, let me ask you this: each night, what's sort of the underrated match that you think could steal the show? Because I think night two specifically, I think AJ Styles and Logan Paul is going to put on a great match. The Fatal Four Way IC title match, I think is going to be very fast paced, very fun between those four guys. I think Braun Breaker is going to shoot to the moon here eventually. And night one, listen, there's not a lot of sleepers out there, but this is gonna sound funny, but I don't know if you're liking this storyline or not, but I think Ray and El Dragon Americano, Chad Gable, however you want to put it, I think those two will put on a hell of a match.
I think it'll be excellent. And I think that'll be a fun little match. I think the match I looked at that could steal the show on night one. I think the match I'm looking forward to the most is just to see where they go out of it. I definitely want to see on night one, I want to see the main event.
Yeah.
That's going to be huge. And then I also want to see the Intercontinental title fatal four way in there. But as far as a steal the show on night one, uh, I'm going to go with Jacob Fatu and LA Knight just because
Okay.
did we see a scenario where Solo Sikoa accidentally screws Fatu out of the championship?
See, I think it's either that or I think he murders LA Knight.
Well, either way, I think it'll be a great showcase for Jacob Fatu, show what he could do and elevate him to the next spot.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of weird. Like I thought we were gonna get Solo and Fatu in a one-on-one, and maybe you get LA Knight, Carmelo Hayes, Braun Strowman, maybe some other mid-carders in a multi-man match for the U.S. title. It does feel kind of weird, and after the year Solo had, when he was this leader of the bloodline, he goes out, he has the main title match with Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam, which we were both at. And now we're at WrestleMania, and he technically does not have a spot on the card.
Right. But I think part of what hurts Solo is his size. I don't think he looks physically imposing.
That's fair. And you know what? I hate to say this, Jacob Fatu hurt Solo. Jacob Fatu got immediately over, and we were both saying, be careful with this guy, because I think one day Jacob Fatu is going to be a massive babyface. I mean, he is already so over, and it's like when you saw him interfere on the Bloodlines match against Roman, people didn't want to see Roman versus Solo anymore. They wanted to see Roman versus Fatu.
Right. So I think we're kind of lost there. I don't feel like Solo, I think he's kind of in a weird Baron Corbin territory, where it's like we're supposed to believe him as a threat because they're telling us to, but he's just kind of there. And he's a
Yeah.
great heel because he makes people not like him.
And
But
the other thing is him beating Cena last year and doing, the 15 Samoan spikes or whatever it was. It never got over as I think they wanted him to get over from that. That was supposed to be a big killer moment for him.
right. And then it was kind of just left for Cena to get his revenge at 40, and then that was it.
Yeah.
But and they had a lot of opportunities to build Solo as a killer when he was the leader of the new bloodline. And I feel like they just failed to do so. Uh, I
Is
think
there? Let me ask you this because I've sort of felt this way too. Like WWE, we've talked about this. Their roster right now, Mike, is so stacked that there are just guys that are really good workers that are in some storylines and then they just either disappear or some storylines don't get over because the top of the card is seemingly on lockdown because there's so many stars at the top now.
right. I see what you're saying, but there's also room to create other guys because I feel like in the mid card, there's plenty of guys that have
Yeah.
gotten opportunities at the World Championship. But guys have to do things to be different. When I look at Solo Sikoa and the way he reacted to the Roman comeback at SummerSlam this year in Cleveland, he looked like he was lying. He looked like he was. And it's just like to me, that's not how you build a killer. You know,
Yeah.
I feel like if there was one letdown, looking back on it in hindsight to the Roman Reigns babyface return, it was how it made Solo look so awful. You
Yeah.
know, we should have had Roman clearly distinct, like hey, like I'm gonna help Cody win the title, but like I should probably just unload on Solo and beat the snot out of him because that further cements me as a baby face, and that kind of sets the wheels on fire with this feud with me and Solo. It just kind of never happened.
All right, Mike. So bottom line here is outside of a few the last decade, WrestleMania has always delivered. It's gonna be an incredible weekend. I know we're gonna be texting back and forth. I know we'll talk. It's gonna be amazing. I know you hate when I ask you this question because I know you hate looking so far out. But big picture here, post WrestleMania 41, because after WrestleMania, technically in the WWE calendar, things reset. But there is always this sort of overarching, hey, after WrestleMania, these are things that we're going to set up for the next few months leading into SummerSlam. What are going to be the big picture points or big storylines coming out of WrestleMania?
Well, definitely, I mean, Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman, I think it's a great way to build up Seth Rollins. I think going in the summer, a nice feud would be heel Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman going after Cody. I think we definitely get Roman and Punk. And believe it or not, this will be a heck of a showcase for Braun Breaker in this Fatal 4-Way match. I don't think he's
Yes.
going to win. I don't think he's going to win them.
No,
Um,
can I throw this at you? I think Dom wins.
yeah, Dom can win and Dom can build up that title. Um,
And maybe it's the way they turn Bauer back face. Bauer turns on the Judgment Day eventually, and that's your IC title feud down the road is Finn and Dom.
yeah, I love it.
So, all right, Mike. Well, it's going to be incredible. Can't wait for next week. Like that clip from the Brands World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brands World podcast right here on YouTube.